Okay, we have another mass shooter and another massacre in Texas. This one's in El Paso. So far, authorities say 20 dead, 24 injured. Um, who isn't tired of it, right? So we're exhausted with the mass shooters and the tragedy and the fact that our politicians don't do anything about it. So they're not going to do anything about this either. You want to know the number one problem? Corruption. Okay, number two problem is guns. There's guns everywhere. In Texas, there's 1 million guns. So, oh, gee, how did it now will I go through the same rigmarole? How did he get his hands on a gun? What are you nuts? It's Texas. Okay, legal, illegal, what difference does it make? We're swinging an ocean of guns. The whole country, there's about 300 million guns, about the same number of people. And so guns are a huge problem. We had guns as a problem. That's why we've been having mass shooters nonstop. Before Columbine, but Columbine is a starting point a lot of people use. And then the demagoguery began, and then right-wing extremists started finding friends and allies in a community online, and so then they started to encourage themselves, and a lot of the alt-right encouraged them. Oh yeah, it's the immigrants, and this guy, it turns out, is, oh, you're going to be shocked to find out, a young white male right-wing extremist, just like almost every other one of the shooters. So in fact, literally last year, every mass shooting that had a death, or any shooting in a domestic terrorism situation that had a death, 98% of them were done by right-wing extremists. The majority of the shooters and the domestic terrorist threats are right-wing extremists, white nationalists. So now we have these absurd jerks online. I could use way worse language. That when you point that out, go, oh, now you're being racist. Ha ha ha. You think you're so clever. Okay. No, there's a real problem in the country. And the FBI needs to do its job. From time to time, they do catch folks ahead of time. And I applaud them every time for that. But there's extremism. Yes, there's still Muslim extremists in the country. They're now overshadowed, unfortunately, by right-wing extremists and white nationalists. But it doesn't matter, guys. If you're a rational person in society, you want to make sure that none of the extremists succeed. I mean, we really have to have a conversation about how obvious this is, right? Because we all live here. We all have our families here. And the shooters are everywhere because the guns are everywhere. And the extremist ideology is everywhere. I started telling you this years ago. Don't get surprised at the next shooting. It's going to happen in your neck of the woods. And every time there's a shooting, we go online and we talk about it, and people say, oh my God, you're right, I didn't expect it here, and then it happened here. It's gonna happen wherever you're watching this video, because our representatives don't represent us. So they won't do a goddamn thing, and then someone will get massacred. And now I've had, unfortunately, dozens of people write into me say, I heard you, I didn't believe you, and then someone I know got killed. It happened here. It's going to happen there. Wherever you live, it's going to happen because we're in an ocean of guns. Now, you add on top of that Trump's demagoguery, going around saying, oh, the immigrants, there's no room left. We got to do something, right? And guess what? This guy, it turns out, wrote a manifesto against immigrants, talking about how there's no room here in America and he's got to do something about it. And as usual with these lunatics, he goes and shoots up a mall, Walmart, etc., filled with everyday Americans. I don't know if they were Latinos or white or black, probably very, very likely a combination of that. What did they have to do with anything? And what did anybody have to do with anything? But for extremists, the answer is always violence. So, all right, now we go back to lately it's happening more because you've got the guns, plus the right-wing extremists, plus Trump's demagoguery. That's a toxic, toxic stew that leads to nonstop massacres. That's what's happening right now. Now, let's acknowledge that before Trump, we also had mass shooters. Maybe not at this pace, and certainly not this percentage of white nationalists and white supremacists and right-wing extremists. So the fact that contingent has increased is indisputable. It's in the numbers. It's in the facts. Trump's government acknowledges it at every level, including the FBI, okay? So Does that have something to do with Trump constantly promoting basically nationalism, white nationalism, demagoguing against immigrants and minorities and calling them filthy and disgusting and an infestation over and over and over, criminals, rapists, etc.? By the way, let's just note again the irony of this guy went to go kill immigrants because they might be criminals, and he murdered 24 people, or 20 people and wounded another 24. I'm pretty sure you're the criminal. There's a criminal in this picture, but it ain't the immigrants, it's you, okay? So Trump riled them all up, and if you're hurt by that, like, oh, boo-hoo, oh, I need a safe space because Jenk said it was Trump. Look, the only reason you say that is because you're blind or you're so biased by your ideology that you can't see straight. Look at the data. Right-wing extremists have gone up massively, and almost all the mass shooters are right-wing extremists. Okay, but like I said, this problem, not at this scale, but pretty close, existed before Trump. It was a different combination of people doing it, but extremists nonetheless. And no one wants any extremist of any race or any religion shooting up their neighborhood because they live in it. Okay, I've established that 1,000 times. And okay, but one last thing before we get to the biggest problem that I talked about in the beginning. If the same number of extremists had done the same number of mass shootings, but instead of being right-wingers, they were Muslims, does anyone believe that there wouldn't be the biggest national hysteria you've ever seen in your life? Does anyone believe that Trump wouldn't have done something about it and the Republicans wouldn't have joined in and a lot of the media wouldn't have joined in? Well, we got to do something. I mean, it's the Muslims, we got to do something. When it was a fraction of this amount of domestic terrorism done by Muslims, there was already massive hysteria, which led to Trump saying we should ban all Muslims and him getting elected. But now there is way more right-wing extremists. No talk of profiling, no talk of anything. Look, I don't want profiling based on race, religion, or political ideology. But I do want the police and all law enforcement to do their jobs. If there are places where extremists aggregate, do not say, well, it would be, Fox News would yell at me, Trump would yell at me if I looked into it, even though there's a nest of vipers there. Your job is to look into a nest of vipers, no matter what their religion, race, or identity. Okay, finally, why is guns not the number one problem? Why is right-wing extremism not the number one problem? Because the number one problem is actually corruption. Because we could have done something about this by now. But our politicians are corrupt. Just say it. Say the words. Say the words. They're corrupt. You know what percentage of Americans want federal background checks? Not 51%. If it was 51%, we should win in a democracy, but it might be nip and tuck and, hey, you know what? We lost a coin toss on that one. 60%, well, we should definitely win. 70%, are you kidding me? Would have been done already. We live in a democracy, don't we? 80%, no, 97% of Americans want federal background checks. Yet we don't have them. Why? The problem isn't anything but corruption. Because the entirety of the Republican Party and some portion of the Democratic Party takes money from the NRA and from gun manufacturers, and they say, I don't care if your kids get killed. I don't care how many massacres there are. Did I get paid or did I not get paid? If I got paid, I don't care. Let the massacres continue. Yes, they do have blood on their hands. Yes, they did this. They're supposed to protect us. That's what the number one job of the government is. Even the right wing says, hey, look, I don't want big government, but we got to have the military, we got to have the cops, we got to have the fire department, because the job of the government is to protect us. And remember when Trump said he alone could protect us? Now there's more massacres, not less. What happened? He doesn't care because the massacres are done by right-wing extremists. But the bottom line is, Trump said that he would go and attack the gun issue, did nothing. Remember that big speech he gave after the shooting in Florida? High school gets shot up. He said, oh, yeah, and a lot of these politicians, they're afraid of the NRA, but not me. I'm going to take real action. And then the NRA comes in and says, hey, bitch, remember when we gave you $30 million? Okay, you remember that we could give it to you in the next election, so why don't you shut up? And the next time, Trump, the supposed tough guy, comes out and goes, I'm not going to do anything. I'm not going to do anything. I promise I won't do anything. Coward through and through. Commander Bone Spurs. And just like all the slimy, gross, corrupt politicians, Trump took the NRA's money and did nothing while our kids get murdered. And same with the Republicans. Look, guys, I emphasize this every time. The problem is violence. We deal in political solutions and we do nonviolence. If anyone ever does violence on our side, they are by definition not on our side because we're progressives and we don't do that. That's monstrous and terrible. We have to take political action. And the political action is to get the goddamn money out. I mean, everybody in the country knows this. Here's another stunning number. 96% of Americans know that politicians work for their donors and not their voters. That's a poll. That's a poll. Look, if you ask Washington, they're shocked and chagrined. Are you saying that the politicians are corrupt? Oh, that is very rude of you. Well, then 96% of the country is very rude. Yes, I am saying that. Yes, I am. They take the money and they do as they're told. They're water boys. So they took the NRA money, and we have nonstop massacres. And there's going to be one tomorrow, and the day after, and the week after, and the month after. Because we're still not going to do anything. You think that there's some level of massacres where Republicans and NRA-funded politicians, whether they're Republicans or Democrats, would do something? No, there is no end to how craven they are. There is no bottom to their barrel. As long as they get their checks, they will let us keep dying. So there is no answers until we get the money out. Then we could finally maybe have representatives that represent us and actually care when we get murdered. Until then, tune in tomorrow for the next massacre because it's a guarantee.